Yo, what's up guys, this is Paw and this is my quick guide for Everkeep Extreme, where you face Zoraal Jaw. Before you do anything, divide the group into two light parties and pair up the tanks with the melees and the healers with the range. You will need these pairs later. The boss will start by casting Actualize, which is just a raid wide. Then he will cast Multidirectional Divide. 4 of these lines will appear in an X formation that do damage, so don't get hit by them, and divide the arena into 4 quadrants. It also creates this grid on the ground which does not do damage right away, so you can just walk on top of it. However, later on this grid will fire away and do damage, so you want to look for a spot that's a bit bigger than usual. The boss then will cast backward half or forward half. One of his swords will glow either on the left or the right side, so that side of the arena becomes unsafe. In addition, if it's a backward half, he's also going to cleave the whole arena in front of him, starting from his hitbox at the back. If it's forward half, the boss will jump north and turn 180 degrees and cleave all the back half of the arena, starting from his hitbox. He will also cleave the glowing side. Since the boss turns 180 degrees, the glowing side will also flip. So TLDR, if it's backward half, you go behind him to the non-glowing side. If it's forward half, you go in front of him to the glowing side. This cleave will also go out the same time as the grid goes out on the floor. So you have to position yourself correctly according to the grid and according to the cleave. There is a full melee uptime and the non-uptime version to both of these cleaves. Next up, the boss will cast Multidirectional Divide again, the grids will appear, and he will start casting Regicidal Rage. That will spawn 2 tether tank busters. The party needs to stack behind the boss while the tanks will grab the tether and position themselves accordingly to the grid and also taking the busters. The only thing the party needs to do here is to just find the safe spot for the grid. Then the boss will cast Dawn of an Age, which is a raid wide that deals a lot of damage. The main platform will shrink and 4 other platforms will spawn. Then the boss will cast Vollok, creating the sword patterns on the outer platforms. He will cast Sync to select 2 adjacent outer platforms, lighting them up, indicating that these 2 sword patterns will slide onto the main platform. In addition to this, he will also cast Half Full, cleaving the west or the east side of the arena. The goal here is to identify which side is getting cleaved, which you can do by looking at the glowy sword and positioning yourself to the safe side while also dodging the pattern on the floor. If you want to make this super easy, you can just stand at the center of these 4 tiles on the safe side, because before the tiles do damage they will light up, so you can just quickly react to it and move to the safe one. Next up is Greater Gateway. 2 outer platforms will get connected to the main platform via these blue tethers, and 2 outer platforms will get connected to the main platform via these fire and wind tethers. Then the boss will cast Blade Warp, summoning 1 blade on one of the fire wind platforms and summoning 2 blades on one of the blue platforms. Then he will cast Forged Track to activate the blades. Make sure that you pay very close attention to the entry point and the exit point of these blades, because they will likely shift over 1 or 2 rows usually. If a blade gets warped through these blue tethers, it will just fire a line AoE in that row on the main platform. However, if a blade gets warped through a fire tether, it will fire an AoE on the row it arrived and the 2 adjacent ones, making it expand to 3 rows and making only the furthest row safe. If a blade warps through a wind tether, it will fire an AoE on the row it arrives and also does a knockback from it. There's 2 ways to do this. You can either stand next to the row the wind is going to arrive to on the wider end and ride the knockback to the safe spot, or you can go to the safe spot either on the wide or on the narrow end and just use knockback resist. So TLDR, you have to solve both sets of blades to resolve the mechanic. The fire plus blue tether combination leaves only 2 safe spots, however the wind plus blue tether combination leaves 6 safe spots. My advice for this mechanic is to find the safe spot for the fire/wind tether first, then find the safe spot for the blue tethers and then combine the 2. Once this is resolved, every player will get a yellow pyramid marker, which means that they need to spread to separate tiles. If there's more than 1 player on 1 tile, everyone will die, so just use your eyes and spread. Then the boss will cast Actualize, which is a hard-hitting AoE, and revert the arena to normal. Next up, the boss will cast Projection of Triumph, which will spawn 16 swords on the ground which don't do anything by their own. 2 beams will spawn on 2 sides of the arena arena and they start passing through the arena, one having donut AoEs and the other having point blank AoEs. Every time a beam passes through a line of swords, it will do its donut or point blank attack. So the goal here is to dodge all of this. I find it the easiest to stand on one of these middle sword rows. From here you can just dodge a donut by just standing directly on a sword, and you can dodge a point blank by just standing directly between two swords. The catch here is that the boss will face north and cast forward half or backward half. To simply put it, you need to dodge both of the donuts and the point blanks and the cleave. The best tip I can give is to do what I do: stand on one of these middle rows, dodge 3 donuts / point blanks, then find the safe spot for the cleave, and then dodge the last donut or point blank. Next, the boss will cast Projection of Turmoil, giving every living player a projection debuff that lasts for about 50 seconds. In addition to this, a beam will also spawn north and pass through the whole arena. If a player with the projection debuff touches the beam, they will do an explosion around them. If somebody does this alone, they will die, unless they are a tank, because then they can just use invuln. The idea here is to split into light parties on each side of the boss, starting close to the beam, and having players touch the beam one by one and having their light parties soak the explosion. The most comfy soak order is tank, healer, melee, ranged, but you can swap this around if you want. Towards the end of this mechanic, the boss will cast Bitter Whirlwind, which is a tank buster hitting 3 times and giving a magic vulnerability up, so you can just swap every hit or just invuln it. There's also a cheese strat for this mechanic, which is getting fixed, so I don't recommend doing it. The idea here is to have the tank pull the boss in the wall, since the wall damage is not lethal and it's way easier to heal the bleed you get from the wall than the actual soaks. In this case, the party goes to one side in the wall and the tank goes to the other side in the wall. The beam will disappear after a while before it touches anybody. Then the boss will cast Dawn of an Age again, shrinking the arena and spawning 1 additional platform. Then he will cast Drum of Vollok, giving 4 players either the DPS or the support enumerations. This is where the bodies come to play. The enumerations line up on that edge of the main platform that has the other platform in front of it. Our order of lineup was this, from left to right looking at the other platform. Then their pairs pair up with them to satisfy the requirements of the enumeration. When the enumerations go off, every player will be sent flying up in the air. Players who originally had the enumerations will be just knocked up in the air in place. However, the players who helped soaking the enumerations will have to aim themselves towards the other platform. You can do this by standing directly in front of your buddy looking at the other platform in a straight line. So by this, the party will be divided into DPS on one platform and supports on the other platform. Then the boss will summon 2 gigantic swords on both of these platforms, taking up 4 tiles. Then the boss will cast Sync and will slide both of these swords to each platform, making only 8 tiles safe. But 4 of the front tiles will always be safe. Then the pyramid markers will appear above everybody's head, so you will have to spread on separate tiles. Then the boss will cast Aero 3, spawning a wind current on each platform. If anyone touches this wind current, they will be flung into the air relative to the angle they touched it from. It also gives players who touch this a wind resistance down, making it possible to use this wind current only once this phase. If a player with wind resistance down debuff touches this whirlwind, they will die. Then he will face one of the platforms and start casting forward half or backward half. Players on the unsafe platform will need to utilize the wind current to ride it to the other platform and position themselves to the safe spot. So either the DPS or the support will have to fly. For these cleaves, the first rows will never be safe. Next up, the boss will cast Duty's Edge, hitting the party 4 times, increasing the damage with each hit. Then he will cast Burning Chains, chaining the DPS to the support. Players who did not utilize the wind current before need to use it now to jump to the other platform to break the chains. Just to make sure the chains get broken, everybody should stack up when the chains spawn, and after the 4 players who had to ride the wind got to the other side, everyone should take a step back, maybe out of max melee too. If you don't break the chains, it will pulse for some damage and give you wound stacks, not killing you immediately, but after a while it will. The boss will cast Actualize to end this phase, doing big damage, and flung everybody into the air while returning the arena to normal. Then he will cast Projection of Triumph. This is very similar to the first one. You still have to dodge the traveling donuts and the point blanks, but now the cleave is not a forward half or backward half, but instead the boss will cast Half Circuit. He will have 1 sword on either the west or the east side glowing, indicating that that side will be cleaved, and in addition he will use 2 extra swords. If he places these inside his hitbox, then the safe spot is outside of his hitbox. If he places these swords outside of his hitbox, then the safe spot is inside his hitbox. So TLDR, you have to dodge an in or an out on the safe side that's not getting cleaved, while also dodging the donuts and the point blank. blanks. You could just do my method for this, which is standing in one of the middle rows, dodging 3 donuts or point blanks, and then dodging the half room cleave with the in or out, and then dodging the last donut or point blank. After this, 2 tank tethers will come out, so the tanks will have to grab this and also keep doing the donuts and the point blanks while also soaking the buster. The party only needs to dodge the donuts and the point blanks away from the tank busters. Then the boss will cast Projection of Turmoil, which is pretty much the same as the first one, except the boss will cleave either the west or the east side of the arena 3 times. You can keep doing the same order for this one as well, so tank, healer, melee, ranged. The goal here is to have the tanks and the healers resolve their debuff before the first half full cleave finishes to cast. After that, everybody will go to the non-glowing side to dodge the cleave, then everyone will go back to their original side to resolve the melee and the range debuffs. After all 8 debuffs have been resolved, you will have to deal with 2 additional cleaves and a bitter Whirlwind tank buster. You can just keep swapping this or invuln it. The cheese strat works exactly the same way. You go to the very corner, dodge 3 cleaves, then go into the wall, tanks on one side, party on the other side, and you just do nothing and heal the bleed. Next up, he will cast Dawn of an Age, shrinking the main platform and spawning 4 additional platforms again. Then he will cast Vollok to spawn sword patterns on the outer platforms, and cast Sync to select 2 of those to slide them into the main platform. Everything functions basically the same as before, except that there is no half room cleave here, and everybody will get these pyramid markers, so after you dodge the tiles, you will just have to spread. Then he will cast Duty's Edge, hitting the party 4 times and increasing the damage with each hit. Then he will cast Greater Gateway, which functions exactly the same as the first one. He will cast Actualize, do damage, and return the platform to normal. Then he will cast one last Multidirectional Divide with a forward or backward half, so you have to dodge the cleave and the grid pattern. After this, he will channel one final Actualize, which is the ENRAGE. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this trial as well. If you liked it, let me know in the comments, give me a thumbs up, and sub to my channel. Also check out my Twitch channel, because I stream there almost every day, mostly porting content. Peace and good luck, gamers.